Hello, I'm Jeri Nichols with GenePharmer. In my last video, the introductory video, I talked a little bit about how I order genetic testing to help individuals make better decisions about the medications that they're taking. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about genetic testing, just to give you a better idea of what genetic testing can and can't tell you and how there really are differences in genetic testing. So you may have watched the previous video and thought, I've had genetic testing before. I had testing through 23andMe, Ancestry. I had testing to see if I have a higher risk of cancer because of my family history. So my doctor did that testing. So why would I need another genetic test, right? Well, genetic tests are not all equal. In fact, there are literally thousands of different genetic tests. And I myself have had multiple genetic tests during my lifetime. I'm going to share one with you now that may give a better idea of what I'm talking about when I say that tests are not all equal. So, what you're seeing here are my chromosomes. When I was in grad school in Cincinnati, we got to go to the lab, have our blood drawn. They cultured those cells, looked at them under the microscope to see our chromosomes. So, the image in the lower right is all of the chromosomes that are inside one cell. And then the image at the top is taking those chromosomes and kind of pairing them up. So, if you recall, we get essentially half our genes from our mom, half from our dad. So we have two copies of every chromosome for chromosomes 1 through 22. And then we typically have two sex chromosomes. So two X's for females, X and a Y for males. And of course, there can be some different variations among the chromosomes. And that's what this study is looking at. So looking to see, do I have any extra missing chromosomes, any extra missing pieces? But what a chromosome study does not do is it can't tell you if all of those genes inside work the way that they're expected to work. Is everything spelled correctly? You can't see that at this level. So this is kind of akin to taking a book and looking at it to see, all right, so it's got, let's say, 46 chapters in it. Are all 46 chapters there? And that's all that you're doing is looking at the big picture. Does it look like it contains the material it's supposed to? Um, but those 20,000 genes inside, we don't know anything about those. So some labs can actually do sequencing, which is pretty close to reading all of the DNA from end to end, kind of like reading a book from from cover to cover. Some labs will look at just one gene and they might read it end to end, or they might pick out specific spots within the gene to see if there are changes. So another test I had done was cystic fibrosis carrier screening to see did I carry a change in that gene that if my husband also carried a change together, that combination could cause a child to have cystic fibrosis. The testing that I had done looked at about 60 different changes in the CFTR gene. Well, we actually know today that there are more than 2,000. So while my test was negative, that tells me I don't have any of those 60 changes. But there are almost 2,000 other changes that I could have that the test didn't even look for. Now, the other ones are more rare, less likely. But this is just to give you an idea that genetic testing typically is not 100%, even though it can be quite accurate. With pharmacogenomic testing, I've had testing through a couple of different labs. I had one lab that looked at 30 some genes. I've had another lab that looked at about a dozen, and another lab that I think looked at 6 to 10. So even among pharmacogenetic testing, the tests are not all equal. All labs do not look at the same genes, and all labs do not look at the same changes within those genes. So, all of this to say, a genetic test does not equal a genetic test. Now, some of you may have had pharmacogenomic testing done through 23andMe. An important thing to understand about that testing is that it only looks at currently 3 genes. And in those 3 genes, they look at 6 different changes. So, pharmacogenetic testing through 23andMe can provide you with a little bit of information about how you process medications, but you can get a lot more information through a more comprehensive pharmacogenomic test that includes more genes and more of those variants that you can find from within a gene. So, if you're interested in learning more about how pharmacogenetic testing could potentially benefit you, definitely get in contact with me. You know that I am all about cultivating better health, one genome at a time.